Time is running out for first home buyers. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, and I thought we should have a look at this article. First home buyer affordability, best on record. But luckily, or likely to be short-lived. And, I thought we'd go through this, and it just frustrated me. It really did. Because here they're talking about, what is it that they're talking about here? According to the latest National First Home Buyer Affordability Index. Now, I couldn't find that. I couldn't find the National First Home Buyer Affordability Index. I thought it was Dr. Andrew Watson from Archistar, the chief economist. I thought he was referring to that, and they're calling up some ABS reports. Archistar seems to be a automated conceptual design and property investigation platform that looks quite impressive. It does a lot of the initial testing from an architect. They're just using generative design, which is something I was interested in at university and played around with. But see, they're referring numbers here, and I thought, what? Let's have a look. What could I find? You go right back to the RBA in 2017, and here, from their report, and this is housing, state housing price to income ratios. There you go. It's only to 2017. New South Wales over fivefold, Victoria over fivefold. All the rest of us at fourfold. Four times. And I said, okay, well, what else could I find? It's obviously not this one. I'll link to all of these if you want to go through them on your own. But here's, the national price to income ratio. There you go. 2017, we were at 5 times. So look at these properties here in the 80s. 80s 2 times. Okay? So this is why when the people who bought the property there dirt cheap and, sell it now and seem to think they're geniuses in business. Yeah, no. It's called luck, guys. Nothing wrong with that. We all get it one way or another. Then I found this other one here. This is from the Australian Institute for Progress, their Housing Affordability Index. And here we have, they've got a baseline, which is the simple average of 94 to 2004. And in quarter 3 of 2019, it was sitting at 108 compared to the average. And you can see where it's gone all over the place with our property here, just the affordability of it. So, I moved even further and further into the future trying to find... I really went digging this morning to find this stuff. And we looked at, the ANZ CoreLogic Housing Affordability Report that they put out there. And one thing I found quite interesting is to do with... It really didn't give us the affordability housing because it's CoreLogic and ANZ. What I was interested in was this one here. Nope. Affordability or proportion of income people are using in their rents to pay for this housing. We can have here, the rental market. And this is the proportion of income required to service rents in capital city dwelling markets. You can see here, you've got Sydney at 30.7%. At 27.7% of Melbourne, it's 26.7% in Brisbane. This is March this year, and Perth, 24%. You've got Hobart at 34%, everyone. Why are Hobart rents so high? 29% in Adelaide, 25% in ACT, and Darwin down at 20.7%. Now, this got me thinking because the servicing of a mortgage or a rent, it impacts your ability to actually get into the property sector to save up those huge deposits. And 30%, if you're at 30% of your money going towards your housing, you're generally considered in stress, 30% of your gross income. So then I found another one. I found another measure. And this was from the HIA, the Housing Industry Association of Australia. And I'll move that over here so we can see it. From the September quarter, this is just a sample of it. So this is the latest data that I could find about this. And I still couldn't find what they were referring to in that article. This one here, the index, which doesn't really matter because I've done my own dodgy version of it that I want to talk to you about. I've ghettoed it, guys. I've slapped something together in Excel to talk to you about. So first home buyers take advantage of a window of opportunity. So they're they're feeding, this is feeding FOMO, this is feeding a time bar, so people are just, feeling like they have to get into housing. It's all we have here in Australia. So housing affordability index improved during the September 2020 quarter. This improvement was predominantly driven by record low interest rates. Now, for those of you that don't know, our cash rate, and I don't know why I bother updating this, I literally updated this one to 0.1%. You can see that little tiny pixel drop down. Our cash rate is pretty much at 0. Wages also increased during the quarter, but this may be an unintended consequence of the JobKeeper program. Yeah, JobKeeper propping up zombie businesses. And if we have a look here, housing affordability in Australia in the September quarter, the HIA housing index increased by 2.6%, which means that it now requires 1.1 average incomes to service a mortgage on a median price dwelling. Okay, 1.1 average incomes to service a mortgage. Service a mortgage. So I thought, okay, let's play with some numbers and let's have a look at a few things. So if we jump over to here. You know what? I might bring this to this screen here. And what I'll do is I'll just full screen it. Okay. So let's have a look at what I've done here, everyone. So we've got all of our states and all of the cities. And here I've gone from CoreLogic. I've gotten and I'll bring this up here, the methodology. I've gotten all of the latest values that they have here on their prices. Median values in Sydney, and this is from 30th of November, is $860,000. Okay, Melbourne, 672. Brisbane, 515. Adelaide, 459. Perth, 463. Hobart, 505. Darwin, 405. Canberra, 670. You've got the combined capitals and combined regionals. So I use that as the median values here. And what I did is I said, okay, let's say we have a 20% deposit. A 20% deposit for this first one. We can see that here. 20% deposit. Okay. And then that means we'll have a home loan of this much. Now the weekly repayments, and that's just based on a CBA of 1.99 4-year fixed. What I got on their website roughly works out about this. So I've taken a repayment ratio over a few of them tested. This is close enough for what we're doing here. So the average weekly earnings. Now if we go to the, I'll jump over here to the ABS. We have the average weekly earnings right now, $1,713. But I drilled down into that a little bit more because I wanted to look at what it was per state, because it's different. So in New South Wales, it was $1,748. In Victoria, $17,009. Queensland, $1,645, as we go. So then, what I did is, the first thing I wanted to look at was if you have a single person earning the average weekly earnings, and what percentage of your gross income, because that's what this is, you would be spending to just service a home loan with a 20% deposit, which is quite generous. So, we'll play around with these numbers to see what the impacts are. So how much of your income will be necessary to support that mortgage? And you can see here I've mapped it out in this little map here. Now I've put 8% as the lower end of my scale here and 30% as the higher for the color gradient. Because when you're at 30% and above, you are under stress, under housing stress. Because that's the rule of thumb. You shouldn't be spending more than 30% of your housing. Or if you're spending more than 30% of your housing, you're generally considered under stress. If it goes up to 50%, it gets even higher. So someone on an average weekly income buying a median house in Sydney or New South Wales, pretty much in Sydney, would need to pay, would be spending 35% or 34% of their gross income just to service that mortgage. Then you have Victoria at 27%. Then Queensland and South Australia at 21%. Tassie at 23%. And then Northern Territory and WA a bit lower at 16% and 17%. But, okay, that's all well and good. But what about couples? What about couples? Because, I mean, that's New South Wales, okay? Well, you'd be kidding yourself thinking you could afford to get a place yourself at the median price. This is why people go cheaper. Even 690 grand mortgage. So the weekly earnings for a couple, two people earning the same, you'd be 17% in New South Wales. Then Queensland or Victoria 13, Tassie 12, Queensland 11, going down from there, where Northern Territory is the lowest. But you've got to also appreciate that there are a lot of government employees. And I thought, okay, that's the average. Let's break that down into sector, because when we look at this over here, you've got earnings, state and territory earnings, and then industry earnings. Okay, because look at mining. Mining's at $2,697. It skews some of the figures here. So I thought we'd look at retail trade, accommodation and food services, and other services. And that just happens to equal about 1/5 or 20% of the entire workforce in Australia, and they're the three lowest weekly earnings figures. And I didn't do it in any particular order, but hang on. But I did it so we could get an understanding of it. So here we've got and I haven't broken this down by state. I've just done it as the national average, just because it's the data I could get easiest. Now, retail trade, that's 10% of the workforce in Australia. And if we can see here, we've got about 12 million people working in Australia. That's about 10%, 1.2 million people in retail, that industry that's copped the hardest. So, if you're a single person earning in the retail trade, you would need 47% of your weekly income just to service a mortgage in New South Wales. And you can see that down here. Now again, I've kept the scale, the color gradient the same on all of these. 8% is the lower band, because that was the lowest one in Northern Territory I took as the blue. And 30% as when you're in a sign of stress. So if we look at this one here, so if you're single in retail, you're going to struggle. New South Wales, 47%. Victoria, 36%. Queensland, 28%. All of these are getting close to mortgage stress. So the question is it's not even possible for those people working in retail earning that the average full-time income to buy a property themselves, or at least a median cost property. And property they keep fueling this. They're driving up the prices of property. They're inflating it, guys. And RBA doesn't capture it. Then, I thought, okay, let's have a look at a couple, and it looks a bit better. Not much. Once again, New South Wales, the worst, at 23%, everyone. We can see there, 23% of your income every week just to service that mortgage. And we're not even talking about other living expenses. We're not even talking about being able to save up the deposit. That I'm going to do that in another video. Because what they'll say, you'll see, here's the thing. They'll say, oh, it's all good. People are servicing their mortgage. They've got years of payments saved up. They've got pools of cash. But that's a bit different. If you're like me and we got in a few years ago, it was even cheaper. Or if you were really like us and bought a complete tear down and are trying to fix it up, you can save a lot of money there until we spend it all fixing it up. But still, this is what people who are trying to get in to the market are facing. These are the challenges that they're facing. 47% of your income if you want to get a median house. So then what do you push towards? You'll push further and further out, to the suburbs where you've got less chance of growth, or maybe push to apartments. We're now in Perth, in WA, where you've got foreign investors incentivized to buy off the plan with $50,000 in subsidies and gifts and, tax write-offs. Yeah. And they wonder. Our politicians seem to wonder why people are getting frustrated with our government, why there's this growing dissent and frustration in the populace. I wonder why. When this is what you're facing. The Australian dream, the great Australian dream, it's dead, everyone. The idea of even being able to afford to get into property on a job like this is not possible anymore. You have to train your children out of that. You can't. That's a lie. It's not possible at the moment. You know, the government will do everything they can to avoid it. So that's, you know, retail. Retail are pretty screwed. But they're not the worst off. Not by a long shot. The industry that's the worst off is our friends here in accommodation and food services. That's 7% of the workforce, and these figures are from February 2020. So they may not be that high anymore, which is a little depressing. Full of good news today. I'm going to have a shot of coffee, everyone. And there, the average earning is $1,139. So significantly less than those working in the mines, isn't it? And we'll scroll down. We'll have a look on the map. I bet you can imagine what it's going to be like. So you can see here, this is accommodation and food. 7% of our workforce. 7% of people employed. 52% of your weekly earnings you would need just to service a mortgage for a median property. 52%. Could you imagine spending that? Victoria's 40%. Queensland's 31%. You know, oh look, the best player here is Northern Territory. Only 24%, guys. Only a quarter of your weekly pay. So you need to shack up. And if you're shacking up then in New South Wales, still 26%. If there's two of you. 20% Victoria, 15% in Queensland, and the rest are lower. Why are we pouring more fuel on this property market when it's, even in couples, it's still getting high, everyone? Then, okay, finally the last one we have a look at is other services. So that's about 4% of the workforce. $1,339 is their average. And again, you know, we're seeing it here. If you're by yourself, you're kind of screwed. 44% in New South Wales. 34% in Victoria. 26% in Tassie and Queensland. If you're a couple, a little better, but still approaching that stressful zone. Getting close to 30%. And this is the problem. You've got the issue of, I haven't even talked about how to save up the deposit. That's a whole other thing. Because this is all based on 20%. Wait till we change some figures. But this also means the fact that you've got more people just funneling money into property. What other economic activity is occurring there? And if you're renting, remember, you know, you're still sitting about 30% of your property there. So that's with a 20% deposit. Let's change that variable. How about, I don't know, let's change it, to 5%, because now the government is providing that guarantee to people. And remember, these are 30-year terms. Okay? And I'm going to have a shot of coffee before I press enter. And let's have a look at what happens to my little maps here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to save that. So, now, with a 5% deposit, then you probably wouldn't even be able to get into one of these median properties in Sydney. Because it doesn't, oh, wait, no, they've upped it to 900, haven't they? Oh, no, maybe you could. Well, if you get that 5% deposit and you're a single person on the average weekly earnings per state in New South Wales, which is $1,750 roughly, 40% of your income, your earnings every week need to go towards, gross earnings, mind you, servicing that mortgage. Then Victoria's 32%. Queensland's 25%. 24% in South Australia. But, you know, you're smart, you've met the right girl or the right guy, you've shacked up and you're starting a family, you're buying a house together. Oh, it's only 20% of your weekly spending. You know, your weekly earnings in New South Wales. Not too bad if there's two of you. I mean, there you go. It's the East Coast, guys. If we go down, retail, I mean, look at that bloodbath. 55% in New South Wales. 30%, 33% in Queensland, South Australia, 43% in Victoria. You know, weekly earnings to pay a mortgage with a couple, 28%. 28%. Now, accommodation and food. 61% of your earnings in New South Wales. So it's not even... That can't even be feasible. It's not even possible, some of these numbers. What does that tell you guys? The people here, this is 20% of our workforce are encountering this. This is 7% of the workforce. This is 10% of the workforce. This isn't just, these aren't people that are not working, that are not contributing. These are employed people. And we're in a situation now where this is what they're facing. So no wonder people feel hopeless. Imagine trying to save up a deposit, paying 30% rent, and then faced with this. Yay! We can work for 30 years and give 60% of our income to the bank. Oh, don't worry, wages will go up. Yeah, sure. So percent of weekly earnings to pay a mortgage. Again, 31% in a couple. See, the couples are getting more stressful now, aren't they? So it may seem good, this government giving these grants to help you out, but none of their intervention. It doesn't help, guys. It juices up the bloody market, and it might push people to go into a bigger property than they could afford. So this is the other sector. 52% New South Wales, 28, 31. With a couple, 26. So when I'm seeing stuff like this, first home buyers, affordability best on record, likely to be short-lived. Get in there while the FOMO. Who are they talking to? Could almost I need to order these. You could almost get a K shape there, can't you? Maybe let's try. Let's try this. Yeah, okay. That's terrible, and you know it is too. So, what do you think, everyone, with regards to what's going on here in Australia? I mean, do you like the prospect of spending so much of your income just to service a mortgage? Surely the banks won't give people those loans. Oh, well, you know what they'll do? I guess they'll just have to create incentives for people to come in to buy. Oh, wait a minute. They did. We talked about it this morning. This is telling me that the Australian dream, the great Australian dream, it's dead. It's not feasible anymore. So what can you do? What can you do if you're in this situation? Well, number one, you need to... I don't think you can do it on your own. I don't think you can do it on your own. I think you need to get your costs down to the bone. You need to go the... Well, see, the only way to do this is to get a diversity of income streams, to reduce your spending to such quite an extreme position. Some people are fortunate enough where they can stay at home with their parents and then make multiple income streams and just cash up and then get in. But can everyone do that? And then what are the economic consequences? You've got to remember, the more people are saving for a deposit up here, if we change this to 20%, so what's this? A deposit in Melbourne, say, for a median house is $134,000. And what would you have to save to get that together in 5 years? 26 grand a year. Everyone. And if you say your yearly income is just the average, we times that by 52. Why is my AutoCAD starting up anyway? We times that by 52. Come on. We'll times that by... I do have a license, guys. It's just buggy. We times that by 52. We'll get there. You're talking what? Sorry, we times that by 52. I'm thinking, bloody hell, the average Australian doesn't make that. So you're making, 90 grand. So that means you will have to save 30% to get that in 5 years. That may be the way to do it. If you're on 90 grand a year. What if you're not? What if you're on this amount here? Accommodation. You'll have to save 45% of your yearly income. What's our savings rate now? 19%, if we're lucky. So guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. What do you reckon? As always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.